Hey, hey, welcome to this episode of Forgiving the Girl Inside, a Matter of the Heart. Today we have the beautiful Regina Smithwick with us. She is a beautiful person with an amazing mission. She is the founder of Regina Smithwick Enterprises, LLC, providing certified life coaching. She is the creator of the podcast talk show, Let's Talk 1943. And in addition, she's a motivational speaker and author of Adoption, the Unknown Blessing. And when you think of the word adoption, you automatically go to being adopted into a family. For whatever reason you lost your parents. I have an adopted brother, which is really cool. So I grew up, my mom was a foster care mom, and my brother is a year older than me. And when we were growing up, everyone said, "You don't look anything alike." He was blonde and blue-eyed, and I was like, well, so I would tell my mom, well, how come we don't look alike? And she's like, well, because he's special. He was adopted. And then I would be like, well, aren't I special? you know? And, so I grew up with this thing that my brother was special. Plus, he was born on Christmas Day. So he was double special. And we're only a year apart and a year and 6 days apart. So I used to tell everyone, well, he doesn't look anything like me because he's special. He was chosen. My mom chose him. She got stuck with me and she chose him. So that was always fun growing up. Yeah. So, but as Christians, we're adopted into the family of God. So I like that adoption, and we create our own. I adopt myself into the Kumbadi family. I got close friends who I consider them more my family than some of my actual blood relatives. So welcome, Regina. Thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to hear your story. You've in your bio you said you were born in Harlem and you kind of moved around a little bit. Tell us about that.
Well, I was born in Harlem. That's where my birth mother had me. And then I was adopted in that week span. And then I was with my family I'm with now. We went to Mount Vernon, New York. And then we moved to Teaneck, New Jersey when I was about 10. And I did most of my time there. I graduated from high school and everything in Jersey. Then I went to school in Virginia. So it's kind of funny how the story ties in as we get into it. I could kind of tell you how me and my birth family crossed paths several times. And didn't even realize it.
Wow. Yeah. Tell us more about that.
Yeah.
So how old were you when you were adopted? A week old?
Yeah, about a little less than, about a week. Okay. It took about a week for the paperwork.
Was it an open adoption then?
No, it was closed.
No, closed. Okay.
Yeah, it was closed. Yeah, these days it's a little different. Adoption is a little bit, it seemed differently now than it was back in the 70s and 80s and 60s. Everything was kind of closed, and now it's kind of open, and you still have a relationship with the birth family. They send pictures. Sometimes they even let you talk to them and keep up with them. So it's a little more open now than it was back then.
Yeah. So how did you know that you came across them when you were growing up?
Well, after this is hindsight 2020 now, because now after I discovered who they were, I realized that they still lived in Harlem for years and years after I was adopted into the family I'm in now. And I, for some reason, would gravitate to that area. Like I used to stay in Harlem. I stayed there every weekend. I used to hang out there all the time. I had friends out there. And I know I used to hang on the same street. Now I know where they used to live. I used to hang on that same street. So I knew in crossing, I had to pass them. I had to pass my siblings or my mother somewhere in that, because I was there all the time. And then when I went to school in Virginia, after I got to know my brother, he was telling me that he used to be there all the time too. He used to hang out there with his friends and cousins. I had cousins actually went to the school at the same time I was there, but I didn't know they were my cousins. So it was just funny to know that he was in the same school, hanging out in the same places I was hanging out with when I was in school. So I know I definitely saw him in crossing, and just probably didn't realize that we looked alike, because I wasn't even thinking on that realm back then. So it was just funny how after we started talking, we realized that we crossed paths during my lifetime.
Wow. It's amazing how you had like this natural instinct to kind of be pulled back there, and kind of hang out there. So did you notice after you met your brother that you had the same mannerism?
Oh yeah, me and my brother. I have six siblings altogether, but me and my brother, we think alike. We have a lot of the same thought processes, and we have the same kind of humor. And this is funny because all my siblings, I could see a little bit of me in every one of them. Like I could tell like certain things about us. Because I have two, my brother and sister on my mother's side, and then I have three sisters and a brother on my father's side. So I have six altogether. So I was raised as the only child. And then just 2 years ago, I was blessed with six other siblings. And my father is still alive, but my birth mother is not. She passed away in 2007. So I didn't get a chance to meet her. But I lived through her, through my family. They always talk about her. They tell me stories. They send me pictures and stuff of her. And we look similar. We look alike. So it's good to know that I could live at least through them, to see my mother. Um, but the whole experience has been wonderful. It's been a great almost 2 years now. I can't believe it'll be 2 years in March that I found
Wow,
my family. Yeah, so we are all great. We contact each other. We talk. My dad, I talk to him almost every day. So it's been beautiful. It's been a
amazing.
great reunion.
What compelled you to want to look for them?
Well, it started back in 2019. I had actually had a mental breakdown in 2019. I just felt like I wasn't living in my purpose. I felt I was just existing here, but I wasn't here. Like I wasn't doing what God had put me here to do. It was just a feeling I had. And then when I decided to get help, I went to a spiritual life coach and I started doing my work. And when I did my work, part of the major issue was my adoption because I didn't tell anyone about it and I kept it a secret and it just manifested into other things in my life from validation issues, being a people pleaser, low self-esteem, all these things festered because I was trying to win people over. I guess because I wasn't loving myself, then I didn't know how to love others in the same facet. So it was just a big thing that bubbled up after I started doing my work, and it stemmed from my adoption. So I said, I need to face my truth. I need to stand on my truth. I need to be proud that I am because I had nothing to do with this. I had no control over the situation. I took on a weight that I shouldn't have took on because it's not my fault. If the world doesn't understand it, the world sees things different as bad, that's them. I can't live that no more. So when I decided to release that and then stand in my truth and actually go and locate my family, it just opened me up. And generally, it opened me up. I'm being transparent, and I realized my purpose was to help others in this same kind of sector because when I did this, I started receiving information from other ones who have not done it and they was like, oh, well, seeing you did it, tell me how you did it. And so I realized I'm not the only one out there. So this is so much bigger than me. This is so much bigger than me. At first, I made it about myself. And when I stepped out of my way and made it into a situation that I'm here to help others and that purpose was found, then I was like, okay, now I know why I'm here. And then it stemmed from that and just my self-esteem and validation. And I just wanted to educate women, but men too, but I really focus on the women that we all have something in our lives. This was just my thing, but we all have something in our lives that we could take it and make it into a positive and use it for your purpose or why you're here. I believe God put things in your life to strengthen you and strengthen that faith muscle, and then he gets you prepared to go out there and serve the way he wants you to serve. And I realized that that's what he was doing with me. So yeah, I took a long time to get there, but he knew when the time was right because I had to be able to receive information to be able to change my mindset and change my processes. And I couldn't do that before. But when I went through what I went through to get where I'm at right now, I had a breakdown, but now I have a breakthrough. So now I'm good enough to say, okay, I've been through this and I could help other people to strive to be their best person. So that's how that came about.
Oh, I love that. I love that transition. I got a nice visual for that. When you connected with your family, did you find out why you were given up for adoption?
Well, when I did my research and I had my paperwork, well, I had to go through the state of New York, go through the adoption department of, I can't think of the name of it right now, but it's a New York State agency that handles all the adoptions in New York State. Well,
Mhm.
when you contact them, they know who you are and you say you want information. And so they sent me all the information that was given to them by the adoption agency. So my mother wrote a statement. So she explained in the statement on reasons why she had to do what she had to do. Basically, she, she wanted to go back to school. Um, she already had 2 children already. I'm the baby. And she knew that she was not able to provide that life that I would need it with another child. A third child would make it impossible for her to do what she had to do to try to survive and try to raise 2 kids she already have. And so
Right.
she felt that the best way to do this is to make sure I was good and being a loving home. I always thank her, in my dreams, and I thank her just praying, and I talk to her and I thank her for not going to the abortion clinic, because she was 20 years old. It would be so much easier for her if she just went to the clinic and she came home and been done with it. She wouldn't have to tell nobody would never known, but for her to think past herself and for
Yeah.
her to be unconditionally loving to me, even though she knows she was not going to know me, showed me her character, showed me her love, and showed me how God just, she has a beautiful heart, because it's so much easier to be selfish and do things just to make your life easier. But for her to wake up every day for 9 months, seeing her stomach grow and seeing that, hearing me and I'm kicking her and I'm doing this to her, every day is being reminded that she's going to give me up. That's a lot of mental right there. That's a lot,
Yeah.
and knowing that she was not going to have no relationship with me. It wasn't like an open scenario that she knew that she would still be part of my life. She knew that she wasn't. And I always give her the homage like that, because I know that was hard for her to do, but she did it and ended up making my life beautiful. I had a beautiful life because of her. So I always want to thank her, to tell her thank you for not thinking just about you, but you thought about me.
Beautiful. That's a beautiful perspective because you never think about it that way. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I myself was pregnant 3 times before the age of 17 and chose abortion for 2 of those
Mm-hmm.
pregnancies. Back in the 80s, we didn't have the information we have now, and
No.
it was really early in the pregnancy. And, I was told it was just a blob of tissue, that there really wasn't life there. And so the
Mm-hmm.
lies that I believed and those decisions that I made
Mm-hmm.
totally, you know, influenced me my whole entire life, and I turned
Mm-hmm.
to unhealthy coping mechanisms and self-abuse because I became saved in July of 79. I was a Christian, but I didn't have a relationship with the Lord. I had religion, and it really
Mm-hmm.
messed me up, and I had the lies that I believed about my whole character and all of that. And I
Mm-hmm.
was very selfish and very prideful. And yeah, I didn't tell anyone. I swore I would never tell anyone. And in August of 20, I shared my story for the very first time. And, the
Wow.
Lord gave me this mission to do divine timing ministries to help women who did choose abortion for post-abortion care, because no one ever talks about the after effects and how it does affect you. And,
It
hearing your
does.
story, it triggered me, because it's like, wow, I was so selfish. And I'm not a bad person. I made the choice at 16 because a 16-year-old mind is a lot different than a
Oh,
54-year-old
oh
mind.
yeah. Oh yeah.
But we
Definitely.
still but we still go back and we revisit those days. And, if we have old pictures and we look at those pictures and we think, wow, I don't want anyone to know. And, I have a beautiful family and a wonderful husband who's been so supportive. But you would talk about the breakdown, and, for years I struggled with anxiety and depression, over drinking, overeating, because
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know why I was doing those things. And when I
Mm-hmm.
did my healing journey, when I did the work and I worked with a mentor, and I went back and discovered the root cause, I was like, wow. And we
Mm-hmm.
do have different choices, but we can never go back and change those circumstances. And
Mm-hmm.
to honor your birth mother that way is such a beautiful statement.
Thank you.
She did make a wonderful choice. And, you know, I just love that. When have you had that conversation with your birth father? Like, he was part of it. And he
Mhm.
obviously agreed for the adoption as well. And you have a good relationship with him now. So what was that like? Tell us
Well,
about that
actually, he did
journey.
not. He didn't know because they
Oh,
wasn't together. They were together, of course, at that time, but a couple months later, they wasn't together. He ended up going back home, so he didn't know about it until after the fact. And so he came
okay.
up, and by the time he came up back home, come back to New York, everything was already done already. So he didn't know like that. Mm-mm.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So But, we talk about, their relationship and talk about things. And everything is just really beautiful. The way they had a love that was really, it was a young love, but they love each other and they really show that love. And he, had that in his heart. And I just love to hear the story about them, because them is what made me. Without them, I would not be here. So it was just beautiful for them to be able to have that love for each other enough to make me. And that just was really pretty. I really enjoyed
Yeah.
that story.
Yeah. You imagine you have pictures of your mom.
Yeah, I got a picture. Oh yeah, I look like I
Yeah.
look like both sides. I look like my dad and my mom.
Yeah. That's awesome. What part of you had to forgive your parents and your siblings for you not growing up in that family? Was there any part of that unforgiveness that you had to hold on, that you had to let go of on your journey?
Mm-mm, no, I didn't have no issues at all. Like that part was nothing. Like I knew that God had divine order. I knew it was supposed to happen. So I never carried that on me. Like I never carried that weight on me, because I knew that it wasn't supposed to be then. I was not the same person then. Like if I had tried to find them when I was in my 20s and 30s, I'm not the same person. I don't know how that would work out. I don't know how I would receive them, how they receive me, because they're not the same people. So I know that God did it in exactly the right time it was supposed to be done. When I turned 50, that was the greatest time, and it was supposed to happen then. And I don't question it. So I don't go back in my head and go, well, how about if I was raised with y'all? You think about it, you go, oh, I missed out on certain things here and there. But my siblings told me, and they made a lot of sense. They say, you know what, we wish we had you when you were younger. Yes, of course. But to see the life that you have now, it was worth it. It was worth it for you to live where you was at, and you was raised the way you was raised, because you had great opportunities, you had great exposures and things. You went to college, you have your master's degree. There's a lot of things that we did not have the opportunity to do, and you was able to do that. So if I could sacrifice you just for you to get what you got, it's all worth it. And that's how I love my siblings, because they told me the truth, and I love them for that, because they were just like, don't get me wrong, we had love and we was raised good, and mom was good to us and all that, but just certain opportunities that you and I had here. And I just love to see how you are now, and it was worth it, so I love my siblings for telling me that. Yeah, that made
Yeah.
it easier. Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful. And I know I have several friends that do ancestry.com, and they discovered half siblings that they've had, because their dad or mom that they never even knew about, and they're
Mm-hmm.
reconnecting. So all these beautiful families, and I'm sure, like, you probably caught some TV shows where families are reuniting, and
Mm-hmm.
brothers and sisters are coming together. So that's really beautiful, because I believe inside of us we always know that there's just something that's not fully there, like something's missing, and we know what it is, but we can't quite put our finger on
That
it.
void. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and in that connection. So, and then of course there's families who know everybody, and then they don't talk to
Mm-hmm.
each other. So there's that opposite part of it. So tell us more about the adoption journey. So now you are helping are you working with children, adults? What exactly are you doing with the
We're,
adoption industry?
right right now, my book is kind of opening doors for me to meet different people in the adoption foster realm. I had them, a lot of people have reached out to me based on the book. I had a lot of people reach out to me, and I kind of helped them behind the scenes, and I talked to them, and I kind of let them know what to expect, and you know what not to expect, or just the whole way of doing it. Like, how did I do it? I said, okay, I went to Ancestry, I did this or that. So I'll walk them through it. They'll let me know the stages they are part of and what happens when they get to the point of have to open up that app for the first time. They call me, because they're excited to see who they related to. So I've been helping more on that kind of realm right now, is kind of less one-on-one helping. But I'm in the process now of working and getting something together that I could have an adoption support group for just people like us, that a lot of us still don't know who our parents are at 50 years old. Some of us are scared to try to find them because we don't know if they're gonna reject or not. Some of us are scared because our parents who raised us are still alive. And for some reason, some adopted children feel they dishonoring them by going to find their birth parents, like they wasn't enough, and I need to still find these people. And it's nothing to do with that. You have a given birthright to know where you come from. Just like everybody else knows who their mother and father is, you have the same right to know who your birth parents are, just for medical reasons alone, just for
Right.
medical reasons, just to know,
Exactly.
because you need, especially as you get older, you need to know medical stuff about you. So even if you don't feel like you want to have an attachment to them, that so be it, that's your choice. But if you at least know who they are and know the lineage and know the history, it'll help you. And it's not just helping you, it's helping your kids if you have children. Because right now you're the only line of the, the only line they have. It's just you and that in your child, because you don't have nothing past that. So you need to at least know the medical for your children's sake. So they could, when you leave here, at least they know what to go and get tested for or looked at early or whatever the case is. So I really hope, and that's one of the things that really got me, because I talked to several people who's adopted, and they literally are waiting for their parents to die before they find their birth parents, because they don't know how to go up to them and say, hey, I want to know where I came from, because they don't want them to take it personally and thinking that they don't think they're enough. And that really hurts, because you don't want to wait for people to die to go find other people. That's not how it's supposed to go. You should have open conversation with them and let them know, I love you. Got nothing to do with you. It just got to do with me. And I need to fill this void of not knowing where I'm from. That's all.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's such a beautiful way to put it. And I think a lot of people struggle with that, because they don't want to dishonor their adopted parents who've, given them so much lives.
Mhm.
And there's the other side of that as well. Is, I mean, there's some kids who get adopted who don't have a good experience, and they're in
Mhm.
this hot mess of a family. So I
Mhm.
know adoption is huge. I know some friends that have adopted babies, and the I know some young couples who'd like to adopt, and the process is really hard. And
Mhm.
in my local church at First Bible Baptist, we have a beautiful ministry called His Ministry, which is a foster care ministry where they actually take in, foster care families take in children. And the need in our area in Monroe County in Rochester, New York, for foster care families, I don't know if it's like that in your area. It's huge.
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
not called to be a foster care mom. It's
Yeah,
definitely not
it's a
my
call.
calling.
Yeah, it's a calling. It's
Um,
not for everyone, but it's a calling.
yeah, but if it is something, to our listeners, if that's something that you're interested in doing, definitely reach out to Regina, find out more about that. And if you're interested
Mhm.
in doing the foster care, definitely connect with First Bible Baptist Church, His ministry, or your local, county office adoption
Yes.
foster care agency to get involved, because there's so many kids out there who just need those loving homes. And the adopted families, I know there's a lot of need for families to adopt
Mhm.
loving parents who want to adopt, and they've had such a hard time. I've known families who've gone to other countries to adopt children,
Yeah. Mhm.
and it just doesn't make any sense, because I know right here in our
We have
eastern
enough
part of
here.
the world, there's
Mhm.
so many children that are in need of homes. And it's so amazing how, something back in the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, here we are in 2022, and this is still like a huge issue, and we've kind of been stagnant about it, really. Like, again, adoption is something that you don't really talk about, and if somebody
Right.
does mention it, it's kind of like, well, no, it's almost like, even with like the blended families, like, well, no, that's not
Mhm.
my stepchild, that's my daughter. Okay, but
Right.
in our minds, I mean, like, we both grew up in this, 70s and 80s. In our minds, we always had that, like, oh, who's your family, who are you related to, and like, what's your
Mhm.
lineage. And
Mhm.
it was just something we grew up with. It's not anything that we like, it's not because we were separated from anything. It's just that we just wanted to know, like, that demographics and that genealogy and stuff.
Yeah, where you came from. Yeah, you always say,
Yeah.
"What you came from? Where you come from? Who are you? Who are you
Yeah.
related to?" And you had said something that I was really adamant about. Is my daughter, my oldest child, is actually my husband's child, and
Mhm.
I met him, and she was almost 3 years old. But I don't believe in step. I never said step to her. I don't say this is my stepdaughter. She was always my daughter even before I adopted her. So I ended up adopting her when she was 7, because her mother wasn't in her life, right at that time. And I just felt I wanted her to be a part of this family. I didn't want her to feel like, because I ended up having twin boys, and I'm just like, we all one family, we all are one accord. So I adopted her. So I'm an adoptee and adopter. So I done both sides of
Awesome.
this. So when you said the step, that's what one thing I was always like, I don't like that. I don't like, because step seems like you stepped away, or what's the step? I don't understand that part. Like, so I was like, we never even
No.
used that word with her, even before I adopted her. She was my daughter, and that was it.
Yeah, it's definitely not used in today's culture, but when I was growing up, it was
It
very,
was.
I had a stepfather. I called him
Hmm.
dad. I mean, and I had my two stepsisters, and
Hmm.
I would just say, hey, these are my sisters, and they're like, oh, well, we're your stepsisters. I'm like, okay. I have a half sister, and I don't have a strong relationship with her at all, and it's like, okay, and this is what it is. So
Right.
yeah, and it's like we have to label, but now I like now because my parents, my mom, and they're all passed away now, but my mom
Mm.
and stepdad and my father and his wife, they actually became friends when I was an adult and started hanging out. And I'm like,
Nice.
why didn't
Uh,
you do this when I was younger?
because they were still in their feelings then.
Yeah, but it all happened for a reason. Like you said, it was all in divine timing. So,
Hmm.
well, thank you so much. Now, what's your title of your book is available on Amazon. You
Yes, it
also
is.
have journals. Tell
Yes, I
me a little
do.
bit about your journals.
Well, I have a couple of journals. I have one that's called Powerful Podcast Journal, and it's for us podcasters that you want to, write your episodes in there and keep up with it. It tells you everything from writing your segments, writing the times, writing your guests, if you give away gifts, everything. So you can keep up with your podcast and all in one journal. Then I have one that's called Organizational Life Journal, and it's for anyone, but I geared that more to older people because it has things in there for medications, doctor's appointments, calendars, contact information, website information for older people. That's hard to keep up with that stuff. And if you're their caretaker, you could just grab that book and have all the information in there that, pertains to their daily lives. And then my
Yeah,
last
that's
one is
awesome.
called Wring Out Your Sponge. And it's a book to help motivate you to kind of wring out those old insecurities, some old bad habits and everything else, and be able to absorb new. So we're going to wring out all that by writing it all out in this journal. And then at the end of the journal, you'll be ready to absorb new mindsets and new ways and processes to live your life. So that one actually goes with a workshop that I'm going to do in March. So my website is www.letstalk1943.com, and you can sign up for this workshop, and it's going to be amazing. We're going to have several motivational speakers to kind of give you motivation to do the book, and it's going to be really nice.
Beautiful. I love that. Well, we'll include the links in the description.
Hmm.
And of course, this will be uploaded to the podcast host site. So if you
Hmm.
are watching us today, please share this with anyone you think that would love to hear about it. Connect with Regina. And if you
Please
would
do.
like to sign up for that workshop, just go over to her website. The link will be in the description. And thank you
Thank
so much,
you.
Regina, for sharing your story. Thank you
Thank you.
for
Thank
being
you.
here. Remember that we're all on a healing journey. Mindset is the crux of all that we do. It's a matter of the heart.